Thomas and Frederick. With Thomas and Frederick. With Thomas and Frederick.
Welcome to State of the Franchise, the podcast that talks about franchises of all shapes, sizes, backgrounds, genres, and types. I am one of your hosts, Tom Stadler, here as usual with my co-host and knight in shining armor, Fred Dakin. Fred, how you doing over there?
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there.
Oh, yeah, I snuck up on you.
Yeah, you really did.
You might say I'm like a bandit.
I got those sneaky moves. I say, I'm excited to be here, Tom. It's so to stay the franchise.
I mean, we do it hard. And Fred, we've got class, you could say.
Mm-hmm. We've leveled up.
We've leveled up. You know, it's an open world out there, and we're just galloping along.
Mm-hmm. Just trying to get a house.
Oh gosh. Well, if our listeners have not guessed yet, our topic this week is around a franchise that has been around for a little bit now. A popular RPG series called The Elder Scrolls. You may recognize some of the titles in there. Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim might be the one that everybody's like, oh, yes, that's the one I know. But there's a couple other titles out there that maybe other people are pretty well familiar with, and some that they aren't as well familiar with. But Fred, I got to say, I'm not quite as familiar with this. I know you might be a little bit, though, right?
Oh, the first game of these that I played, I picked up Morrowind for the tiniest bit, and at the time it wasn't hit for me, but I have played lots of Skyrim. But the good news is we got a guest who knows more than either of us, which is always the plan.
Yes. And here to join us this week is a big fan of the entire series and Bethesda in general, the producer on the series. That is Mr. Erik Koconis. Erik, welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody, thank you for having me, Tom, Fred. I'm really excited to dive into the world of Tamriel and all the cool shit that's been created in this game. Full disclosure, I haven't played like all the games. Like, I'm not an expert. Like, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of years of game lore and like titles that are only available on like consoles that I don't have. So, you know, like, I've only played like 4 of the Elder Scroll games.
Oh, only 4 of the 5 that are available.
There's more than those 5.
I mean, okay. I suppose when I say 5, it's what the 5 main chapters of the series, right?
Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
And then there's like 100 different expansions and spin-offs and.
We can talk. Dude, can we talk about mods for a little bit? I use that shit.
I kind of want to talk about the monetization of mods that's going on.
Oh, look at that. No, only the free ones. It's a shared community. That's what I believe. I don't support the pay for mods.
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't care about video games that much.
No, I mean, mods are supposed to be for the people, for fun online.
Right.
Like, if you start monetizing them, it's like, then you're losing out.
And I just learned about all this like hours ago. Like, I knew what a mod was, but I didn't know how big the mod thing was with these games. Because I spent a lot of my time at work watching like hours and hours of docs of people talking about these games, and I'm excited to see some passion from your side. I'm hoping you can match some of these people that made these like 4-hour videos about why Daggerfall is the best game ever made.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that is where a great starting point for us, Erik.
Yeah.
Is tell us a little bit about where you got started with the Elder Scrolls. Like, what was the first game you played?
I dived into it with Oblivion. Actually, like, I started in. I picked up because they had Skyrim released with like Oblivion as like a dual pack thing.
Oh, nice.
And so I got both of them, and I started playing. Like, I started playing Skyrim first, and then went back to Oblivion later. Because the moment, and this is weird, like the moment I held the Oblivion disc like in my hand, I just read the word Oblivion, and I'm like, this is like a game that's going to suck me into Oblivion, and I'm never going to come out. Like I'm going to lose years of my life to this. Like I knew it before I even put it in.
I get so excited when I get that feeling, though. I have to say, when you know, like, oh, I'm going to get so much time out of this game. This is going to burn a hole in my life. I'm going through that right now with Elden Ring, where like it just hit me where I was like, oh, so much to do, so much to see.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, this is going to be, I'm like, that's a scary metaphor. But like, and so I actually like, I put it aside for a little bit because I didn't want to like sacrifice that much of my life to a video game, which, you know, I was in my early 20s. So like I had weird thoughts like that. But I played Skyrim for a little bit and I couldn't. And then I finally went back to Oblivion, and then I actually learned how to use. That was the first time I actually ever played like first person open world exploration too. So like up until that point, I played like Fable and anything else, but it was all forced third perspective. And yeah, like that got a little bit getting used to, but being able to actually jump back and forth was a real nice way to kind of adjust to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a great aspect of Skyrim for sure, that you could kind of have that first or third.
Which I would appreciate if more games did now, because I think there's times when I'm like, this game feels like it would run better in a third person perspective versus a first person perspective, like where you're forced on that. And I just sometimes I'm like, oh, I just feel like I'm getting dizzy spinning around looking at stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited that you said that you played Skyrim and then you went back to play Oblivion, because like I said, I was watching all these videos and watching all this footage of all these games, and I'm kind of tempted to like try to track down a copy of like Morrowind or Oblivion and try to play these games, because honestly, like they all seem to have something special. It's not just like would be like Assassin's Creed kind of in the beginning, where like this isn't the same thing redone. Yeah, there are like three things that are similar, but when you hear people talk about these three games, they're very different in a way.
Yeah, and that, I mean, and that's the weird thing. They all hold up now, like even after like you know, like right now I'm playing No Man's Sky a lot, which is in a hyper realistic, you know, super sci-fi modern thing. But I'll still go back and play Oblivion, which is, you know, the old, you know, kind of chunky, bad animation, whatever. It's not the same quality, but the story, the detail of like all the different quests that are in there. Honestly, I think Oblivion is better than Skyrim. If you
Whoa.
That's what I've been hearing all day.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you're basic if you like Skyrim. That's what all these people who made these videos told me.
That's the thing. Like Skyrim is great in its own way, but like it's pared down a little bit from what Oblivion was, as far as like how you could build a character and like just some of the weird ways that the storylines would twist around. You don't see it in Skyrim the way you see it in Oblivion. Yeah, not to jump way ahead to the what it could have, should have, but Skyrim should have been more like Oblivion.
No, it's a good way to put a pin in that, though, for later on.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting because each of these games won a game of the year from, I guess, different types of outlets.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of goes to show just how competitive I think people do envision them in their mind. And, you know, it's almost like it's for a different set of people, even with each generation. It feels like whoever comes into these games, you know, whether it is through Morrowind or through Skyrim or even looking at Oblivion, you know, and that was my first taste and my only taste of the Elder Scrolls. And not because it never looked interesting or because I didn't like it at all. It was just like, oh man, like if I get into one of these games, exactly as you guys said, I'm dumping hours and hours into this and I'm never getting out. Like,
and I'm still playing it. I'm still playing it to this day. Like I've come back so many times. I've started new characters. they all end up being the same character in the end, but like they all start different.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great to see it.
It has something that other games don't have that just keeps
Mm-hmm.
pulling you onto it.
Yeah, was this like college for you, Tom?
Oh yeah, definitely college for me. I ended up borrowing an Xbox from a neighboring dorm room, and then he gave me his copy of Oblivion with it. And so I was playing on that for a while, and then he, like all college borrowing, the rent comes due at some point, and you have to return that thing.
Yeah.
So before I even got a chance to get sucked into the Oblivion, I was cut off and went back to playing my Wii and PS2 or whatever I had at the time.
That was like when I first played Fable 2, and I'll get into my like kind of origin story with Skyrim. I remember like, because I was always a little reticent to play RPG games. I don't think I had anyone kind of handhold me to them, which I think I needed. Because like I would get games, rarely I'd be able to rent a game from like the Blockbuster or whatever. But when I did, I remember getting like a game back in, I was probably in middle school, and it was like a turn-based role-playing game. And I was like, what the hell is this? Why can't I punch? Why can't I shoot? Why do I have to like choose these options? And I would known at the time was like, maybe see this more as a story that you're enjoying versus a game where you're going to push a bunch of buttons. And so it took me a while. Eventually, when I was in like middle school or high school, I was like, kind of want another shot at this. And I got Morrowind, which I kind of wish like I would have waited a few years later and picked up Oblivion, because it sounds like Oblivion's kind of the happy medium between Morrowind's kind of, it's a smaller map, but it's very intricate in how you can build your character and stories. And then like Skyrim is definitely more like people from all walks can kind of approach it. You don't have to be an RPG person. And it seems from what I watched today that Oblivion's like right in the middle, and it's kind of that happy medium of that kind of in-depth RPG and then playability where you have some action in there. So, but it was really not until college I got Skyrim, and just the idea that I could shoot my bow and arrow at little things and just slowly build up my, stats for some reason blew my mind, or just working on my armor. I just love the freedom of being able to do all that stuff. I remember at one point I was like, I'm just going to get a house and I'm just going to relax. I don't need all this stress from these people. I just want to live in this world. So I came fully around to like the RPG life.
I got 3 vegetables. We're going to make soup.
Yeah, I want to make soup.
I like that it's just like a lifestyle simulator in that way.
Well, that was kind of the original approach to the Elder Scrolls game, was they weren't going for a action game. It was a fantasy life simulator. Like that's what they referred to for Dagger. It wasn't Daggerville, but Daggerfall. Yeah. Daggerville would have been good though.
So what is it about these games though, guys, that, I mean, and maybe that's kind of the perfect entry point to this question of what is it that really brings you back to replay this over and over again, Erik or Fred, where you are somebody who is like, yeah, I want to put a pot of soup on the stove and, build my house and then maybe go do a quest or something like that if I feel up to it. Yeah. Is that the sell on the series, or is there something even more that you guys are like, yeah, this is why you come and play this over and over again?
I mean, I think that's part of it. For me, that game has been something that I just played. Like that was my escape from, a lot of shit. So for me now, it's just like, it's one of those like ultimate comfort blankets, but, I think the reason why I kept going back to it was there was enough details, I think, in Skyrim to keep me like interested enough to bring me into it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And there's enough like different ways that you could explore. You weren't like kind of like force fed. Like I was also playing Assassin's Creed around the same time, and that's a pretty open world, but you're also kind of force directed down a path no matter how hard you try.
Definitely.
Whereas in Skyrim, you can totally forget about it. And I really, really liked that. I really got into just climbing up the mountains and just, walking in a field and hearing, really beautiful music playing in the background. And then all of a sudden you come across a giant and, you get to shoot lightning out of your hands from your own perspective, which I love. And then once I got comfortable and I went back to Oblivion and I really started getting deep into like the lore and the history and how like all of that happened way before you got to Skyrim, and I actually started seeing like the connection between like the top of the Cyrodiil map of Oblivion to where the province of Skyrim starts. And I started actually recognize like this is an entire world that's connected, and it needed two games to expand it. And then from there, I learned about Hammerfell and or Daggerfall and Arena and all that stuff. I'm like, this is crazy. So I think for that, like it's for me, I took it in such a way that like I was paced into like kind of like the watered down version of Skyrim first, and then the crazy ass like more detailed concentrated Oblivion. And like it was a real nice progression, and then I was by that time I was hooked,
Sure.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of like a watered down version is you get used to the water, before you dive into that Morrowind.
Yeah, no, for me, I think a lot of it, I think, was also just like being able to just hunt,
Yes.
That was fun. I spent a lot of hours just like stalking deer in the forest.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why. Hunting in games is just great. It always is.
It's always very satisfying. Yeah.
I played a vampire hunter in one of my roles, which was great.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was probably one of my favorite ones, was that build.
So if you had to summarize the through line of this series, like what would you say these games... Man, I'm trying to be like, what are they about? But it's almost like everything has it has like 10 different routes you can go, or more than 10 different routes, right? Like, but I mean, what is like the single thread if you had to even like post one? Is it just like, here's sort of like a Middle Earth type version of a new place called Tamriel, where all these different lands and everything kind of interact and are their own little like space?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the entire world is called Nirn. The continent that we're talking about is Tamriel. There's also several other continents. Yeah, I think all of the entire world is really can be kind of summed up into a decision. I mean, if like the origin of the like the origin story of the world itself is there are all of these like god-like creatures that were the Aedra that decided to give their essence to create this reality. And then there was also these godlike figures that didn't want to do that, who kept all their power, and now they're the Daedra, which like fuck around with you and like give you extra quests and like give you cursed weapons. They're like, oh, this will help you kill werewolves, but only if your daughter is the werewolf. Like weird stuff like that.
They're the avatar for the developers. They're just like, we have to make this as hard as possible.
Yeah. But like, I think like just that origin of like either, choosing to either be like, the good character where you like give and are of service, or you're the bad character and you just kind of withhold everything. I think that's really kind of the balance of the entire world, because you can decide to either be the good character or the bad character. That's going to completely determine the outcome of your experience. But I think,
and that I do remember about Oblivion, and that was like a very big draw for me. I was like, ooh, like I could even save 2 different files and go a different route, like, and that's just for one character type that you even have, and it's like, how does that change for all of them?
And that's something almost expected in some video games nowadays, that the choices you make are going to affect the game and you're going to have different outcomes. But then that was probably pretty revolutionary.
I mean, yeah, talk about a revolutionary franchise. And I do kind of want to get into some of the history of the development of this game because I think, as we kind of said right up top, this really was a trendsetter for a lot of other games that came after it. And Fred, you mentioned that you're playing Elden Ring right now. Like, I don't think that game exists if the Elder Scrolls doesn't get started, when it did.
Definitely. And when we get towards the end, I definitely kind of want to highlight, like, I don't want to get too much into Elden Ring. That's not that podcast, but more like the reasons why I almost prefer, even though I'm really enjoying Elden Ring, I definitely think I prefer Elder Scrolls and just the setup for a open world RPG. So I'll hit that towards the end, but it's definitely, you're seeing it in a lot of games. And, I saw at the beginning that this company, Bethesda, started help making like sports games.
Yes, they did. So, yep, the Elder Scrolls was primarily developed by Bethesda Game Studios and published by Bethesda Softworks, who, up until that point, as Fred said, was primarily a sports game developer. They made a bunch of little things back in the 80s. They made like Wayne Gretzky hockey. They started messing around with a Terminator series shortly after that.
Which that game looked pretty raw. I watched some video of that.
I know. I feel like I could get into like, I remember seeing some of that on Sega Genesis, but that was a while ago. But what they really, I think, made their mark with, obviously, until another series that we'll mention in a little bit, was with the Elder Scrolls. And these are games that they have sold over 58 million copies worldwide in its run. It has been around since 1994 and started back with back when they first were starting this. They were developing this idea of an arena, as we talked about. I'm very intrigued by this idea of arena because it really wasn't like an arena when the game finally came to be, right? And neither of you have played arena, right?
No.
Maybe I did. I don't know. Like I had a lot of those. Like I played a lot of those different like dungeon crawly explorer games in different ways, shapes, or forms. But like I know the story of Arena. Like it started like you and your team were supposed to just go from city to city and fight in arenas until you were the winner. And then every once in a while you get like a fun side quest or some stupid bullshit. And then, like, they just got more interested in making the side quests. Forget the arena thing. Just do that.
You guys, the covers on this thing, too.
Oh, man. Yeah, the art is fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's great. I mean, and, obviously, we'll probably share a little bit in the promotion of this episode. So if people may have seen it by the time they're listening to this. But, yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to behold. It draws you in. Like, it's like a classic movie posters. It's like what I think of. So, I guess really the idea, as you kind of said, developed from people who were aficionados of like pen and paper RPGs back in the day. So people who probably played, a lot of Dungeons and Dragons back in their day. And I mean, you can see a lot of the inspirations, I think, just even in the art of Dungeons and Dragons and what impact it had on this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as Erik said, the idea of this tournament progressed and became less important, and the side quest became really the game, which I think is such an interesting idea to think about in 1994 when I think in my brain, and I'm probably wrong about this, but like 80% of games felt like they were just like platformers or puzzle games of some sort, or they were sporting games like we were talking about.
Yeah, there's a sports game where you ran really quickly across the screen.
Yeah.
Shooting thing.
Yeah. Very linear gameplay, which I think seeing people wanting to do side quests more or wanting to make side quests more just kind of shows people wanted more like freedom in their games. And
yeah. No, I mean, it's absolutely true. And so although the team had dropped all the arena combat from the game, the material that had already been printed up with the title, so they were committed to the name Arena, even though it's really not. and all about it. I just love this idea of like, okay, guys, we got a great game. It's gonna be called Arena. All right, cool. Well, we got all the art. Okay, so a lot happened in the last 2 years. Well, it's too bad the art company they got.
I just got back from Europe. I was taking pictures of the Colosseum. If you want to use those, I just spent hours doing these sketches. We're gonna do a big arena, right?
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
We went a different direction.
I know. I mean, I can't imagine the amount of money that could have been dumped into this, considering how cheap video games were being produced at the time. But it obviously was enough to deter them. So when the game went to market, they added the name The Elder Scrolls in order to give it the idea of like, it's The Elder Scrolls Arena. And that way it kind of ties everything together.
Yeah.
So the Elder Scrolls, eventually came to mean like Tamriel's mystical tomes of knowledge that told of its past, present, and future, which is a cool as hell pivot to think about.
Although they did have they brought the arena back. You have the arena in Oblivion. You get to become the champion.
Oh.
Yeah. I know they originally planned for like every city was going to have an arena, but they didn't have room for that in the game.
Yeah, so they just kept it in the main capital. But yeah, that again, one of the things that makes Oblivion better than Skyrim is you can bet on the fights in the arena in Oblivion.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's no betting as far as I know in Skyrim.
That's a damn shame.
Advantage Oblivion.
That right game there. It's mid. It's mid.
Yeah, it's pretty sus and basic, I will say. To play Skyrim, I'm learning more and more, but I love it. I can't help it.
Love it. Mm-hmm.
So, work on The Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall began after Arena's release in March 1994. Ted Peterson at the time was assigned as the lead game designer, not Todd Howard. I'm not confusing those two, just to be clear. That's an off pod joke that got started. Yeah. Too many T names. But basically, Daggerfall's plot was less cliched than Arena's and involved more of a complex series of adventures leading to multiple resolutions. So they kind of upped the ante, though, with this game. The 3D on it reminded me a lot of Doom. Like, if you had put a fantasy skin over Doom, is kind of what I felt like when they're like on the horse riding around.
Yes.
That is pretty impressive.
The videos of the horse riding look super cool. I couldn't stop watching those.
It would have been like, I imagine, like, what if you had tried to play like Ocarina of Time on a PC, right, like in 1997 or 96. Like, it just kind of had that like classic pixel art look, which is so good.
Mm-hmm. And it actually, so I'm gonna bring up with Elden Ring. Elden Ring does a thing that they start in that game that I know a lot of these kind of games do, where they start you in a dungeon in a very small space, and it's like an hour or so gameplay, and it's really hard to get out. And if you just kind of check your expectations of games from that time, you're in this dungeon. You're used to seeing games like Doom where you're in this kind of crawling through here, but then you come out and you're in this open world. And apparently at the time that was just like mind blowing. You come out and then the score changes. You're in snow. And it would just be wild to kind of think of that. Like, if you've been playing these kind of dungeon games your whole life, and then all of a sudden, oh, I get to go up some stairs and open up and see the sky. And Elden Ring does the exact same thing. It's kind of funny.
It's pretty great.
I get to see the sky. You know, it's crazy how, like, what the level of expectation was on video games way back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And just like having, I don't know, like a menu option, like that's like you can go to a mid game. It's like, what? You can do that now? Or you would have had to wait for like a level break or something like that to like put it through any upgrades or whatever you wanted to do.
Well, hey, did you guys have a notebook at home that you would write down the save code?
Oh, yeah.
I did that for
Oh,
Crash
yeah.
Bandicoot. I know on the first Crash Bandicoot game, there was like a password you could have to like get back to where you were.
So, yeah, and I think that's just something that it felt like it feels even so old, even for games like on Super Nintendo or something like that, because at the time, some of the games would let you like save your progress with a save file, while others were like, well, no, you need to write down this 4 rows of code in order to pick up your progress.
Well, it's because like one cartridge would have like a battery built in, so I could stay alive and like keep them. I don't know.
Oh, is that the reason? Oh, interesting.
I think some of them were, yeah. Like,
Wow.
I remember some of the kids would be like, "This Zelda cartridge has got a battery inside of it." This was I just remember, or something. I don't know. But also, again, I was in grade school, so they could have just been. Man, that was stupid.
It's entirely possible. But I mean, it makes sense if that was the reason why.
Mm-hmm.
So with Daggerfall, I guess Arena had more of an experience point based system, and it was replaced in this game with one that more rewarded the character for actually role playing their character. As you guys kind of talked about, it made it more focused on the lifestyle. So had a better character generation engine, the one that included like a what they called a GURPS influenced class creation system. It's an acronym, GURPS, not a term. Are we familiar with GURPS?
Yeah, like I love Gershbergs.
It's the Generic Universal Role-Playing System, or GURPS.
Ooh.
So that was a tabletop role-playing game system designed to allow for play in any game setting.
Okay.
So this offered players the chance to create their own classes and assign their own skills, which feels wild. Like, it's got to be so much customization involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get overwhelmed just trying to pick a skin for my character now. Like,
Oh, for sure.
whenever I'm like, oh, do I want him to have a goatee or not? And this is basically like, how do you want this character to play? Like,
Yeah, it's crazy because like they've been doing this kind of customization for a while, and now it's like in Cyberpunk, you can adjust dong size, and it's come such a far way.
it's come such a far. Oh,
You-
now we're getting
when they were
blue.
making Dragonville or Daggerville, they would be able to.
Daggerfall.
Daggerfall.
Oh,
I wasn't sure what you were referencing at first, but so Daggerfall, after the release, work began on 3 separate projects that all carried the Elder Scrolls title, and that was the Elder Scrolls Legend, Battlespire, the Elder Scrolls Adventures, Redguard, and a little something called Morrowind. So Battlespire, which was originally titled Dungeon of Daggerfall Battlespire, was the first of the 3 to be released. It was originally designed as an expansion pack for Daggerfall, but it was repackaged as a standalone game.
and a lot of these
So-
like monsters and characters from this game will appear in later games. This is kind of the origin for a lot of creatures that you see in like Morrowind and
like their testing ground.
yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it makes a lot of sense though. It seems like there's a lot of standards set with like story and plot elements and character elements that just continue to keep getting built upon throughout the rest of the series. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah. Until you get to the Elder Scrolls Online, which is, I think, like a huge retcon action. Yeah. Because that reverses, like they go back almost in time to before almost all of the other games.
Oh wow.
After all those were,
So they did the Mortal Kombat, basically just went and reset the whole timeline because they lost track of where they were.
I don't think they did that. They just like, look, this other shit happened
Oh,
back in time, and and then it builds on
Like
it
a prequel.
that way. Yeah, kind of like a prequel.
Gotcha.
Like they did some really nice stuff. Like there's character lines that you can follow through every single one of the games that are somehow always connected with the same guilds that go through all of them.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Man, so I guess they really do seem like they are a lot more connected than I guess it seems like, where it's like just like, oh, here's these opposing countries or whatever. It's just, yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So Morrowind was conceived during the development of Daggerfall, a project that they said took close to 100 man-years to create, which is something to behold. Bethesda tripled their staff and spent the first year developing what they call the Elder Scrolls construction set. And this was a tool that allowed the game staff to easily balance the game and to modify it in smaller increments than just trying to build one big thing altogether. So after Morrowind did well, that's to say it very very briefly, because I mean, Morrowind ended up winning a couple different Game of the Year awards. It was really the first, I think, pin in the badge, or whatever you want to call it. What am I saying? Pin in the lapel? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pin in the lapel.
Yeah. For Bethesda. Because
suspect that you got something, kid.
I also wanted to throw
fire in your eyes.
Also, just wanted to throw out Bethesda. You know where they're located, Tom?
Where are they?
Maryland.
Oh.
You know, not too far from a little small town where I was born. At Rockville, Maryland is where they are.
So you were born in a small town, Fred?
Yeah, I'm born in a small town. It's hard to get Elden Ring in a small town. Oh, damn, I said Elden Ring.
Oh,
the Elden thing makes it hard. It makes it hard, man.
The titles are so close. It's so easy.
I mean, we should probably clarify here that people are listening to an Elder Scrolls podcast, not an Elden Ring podcast. That's for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I eventually beat that, when I'm an old man.
Yeah, that's part of the Dark Souls franchise, right?
Yes, and that's kind of my first attempt into the From Software games, which I definitely, as I said, I really kind of like the cheekiness and niceness of, I think Elder Scrolls is just a little more welcoming than Elden Ring. Elden Ring feels like you open a door and they stab you in the chest and kick you out the door, like at every moment.
Yeah, it's it all just seems so overwhelming. I feel like anytime you try to enter an open world RPG now, you're just like you're committing your mind and your heart into a whole story. So
yep, you're gonna put your relationships on the line for your world. But Morrowind, I just wanted to say this is probably the most, like, from what I looked into today, like the one where they really threw it all up the wall. The like plexed sense of leveling up your character, kind of these moments and missions where you're like, oh, you have to go to this person to do this, which will allow you to go to this person. Kind of these like crazy missions. And then I think going from Morrowind to Oblivion from here on out, you start to see the games. The company wants to be more approachable for everyone. They want it to be a game that kind of anyone can play. And this starts to be when people who are like die-hard fans get a little upset with the games.
Oh. What's the criticism though? That it was trying to do too much? Is that it?
Well, they said Morrowind does a lot, and that Oblivion, and then even worse with Skyrim, is they're removing like some of the classes and breaking them down into more broader things. Like there used to be subsections for different weapons. Now, like in Skyrim, it's just all under melee. And it's kind of the simplification of the games are what the diehard people don't like, because with Oblivion's going to open on Xbox 360, which is like a big deal. These have always kind of been more of a PC thing. So, and now they're at like the Xbox events premiering gameplay footage, and it's just kind of a different world. And I think this is the pivot, though. I just want to say, kind of like from Morrowind to Oblivion for these games.
I agree.
Once Morrowind had come out, it was released on March 21st, 2006. Developers already began working on Oblivion, which focused on providing a tighter storyline, as Fred just mentioned, more developed characters, and to make more information in the game more accessible to newer players. So it features improved AI, improved physics, improved graphics. Bethesda developed and implemented procedural content creation tools in the creation of Oblivion's terrain, leading to landscapes that are more complex and more realistic than those of the past titles, but they also had less of a drain on their staff. So I'll never get upset that a studio is like, maybe we should give our guys a break, because we've probably been
Definitely.
The 100 man-years thing on Daggerfall still just sticks in my brain.
Yeah.
Sure.
So then it was in August 2010. August 2010. Todd Howard, our guy here. Todd Howard, who is a designer, director, producer at Bethesda, behind a lot of the Elder Scrolls games, kind of the brainchild of it. Revealed that Bethesda was working on a game that had been in development since the release of Oblivion, and that progress was very far along at that time. So while the game was conceptualized after Oblivion's release, they had held it off and restricted it until a little game called Fallout 3 was being released. So by this point, Bethesda was becoming a thing with between the releases of Fallout and the Elder Scrolls.
I do just want to hop in and say, with Oblivion, you were talking about all the updates. They also had like a big voice cast. Like they were bringing in like actors and stuff. Like Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, man. Oh, dude. Do that opening intro for the game. It's such like, open the gates of Oblivion. Like, or shut. Yeah. Oh.
We should definitely dive into some of the voice cast, because the top billed people on here are, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So it was then in December of 2010 that Todd Howard appeared and announced that the name of the game was Skyrim. So Skyrim was then released a year later, or almost a year later, on November 11th, 2011, to widespread critical acclaim. It was awarded Game of the Year by basically every outlet imaginable, becoming kind of the mainstay there. However, as Erik has been talking about, then on May 3rd, 2012, they were feeling themselves and brought on the Elder Scrolls Online. So it was released on Windows and macOS systems on April 4th, 2014. And then also followed it with an Xbox One and PlayStation 4 versions shortly after in 2014, but that ended up getting delayed till 2015. So the game originally required a subscription to play, but that requirement was dropped about a year later. So there is a subscription service entitled ESO Plus, which grants access to all current and future downloadable content. So fast forward a few years later, and lots of developments and spin-offs that I'm looking forward to talking about a little bit more in extent. But recently in 2021, it was announced that the Elder Scrolls 6 will be coming out after Fable, that they just were announcing a brand new Fable game that just got some play over the weekend, not to date this podcast. Got a full trailer, so we were getting pretty close, and it was confirmed in June 2022 that the game is still in pre-production. This Elder Scrolls 6 that may or may not be called, what is it, Erik?
I think it's Redfall. I know it's being set in Hammerfell. I think that's been agreed on by everybody who's seen the trailers and the teasers.
Does this mean we're gonna have to get Xboxes?
Yeah.
You have to get Xboxes, and they're pushing Fable in front of this because they're almost done with Starfield. That's about to come out, and then they got to do Fable, and then the Elder Scrolls 6.
Wow.
Yeah, which it's a lot. It's a lot of what they have going. I mean, and even though I only kind of highlighted the development of the main installments, I mean, there are probably close to 20 different versions of the game.
Yeah.
You know, there's Daggerfall, I mentioned, Battlespire, Redguard. There's Elder Scrolls 3 Tribunal, Blood Moon, Stormhold, Dawnstar, Shadowkey, Elder Scrolls Travels Oblivion, Elder Scrolls 4, Knights of the Nine, Shivering Isles, Skyrim Dawnguard, Skyrim Hearthfire, Skyrim Dragonborn. Then we have the Elder Scrolls Online. Then we had the Elder Scrolls Legends, Skyrim VR, Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind, Elder Scrolls Online Somerset, Elder Scrolls Online Elsewhere, Elder Scrolls Blades,
Yep.
Elder Scrolls Online Greymoor, Elder Scrolls Online Blackwood, Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim Anniversary Edition, Elder Scrolls Online High Isle, and to be announced then is our Elder Scrolls 6 game, maybe or maybe not, Hammerfell, maybe something around Hammerfell. So, that piece.
Yeah, Elsewhere, man. That's where the cats come from.
Ooh.
The
The
cat.
Khajiit?
Yeah, the Khajiit. The cat people of Tamriel, that's their country is elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
Would you be surprised, Tom,
Interesting.
that I like to be the cat every time I play?
Not shocked at all.
Love those cats.
As an owner of 2 cats, I can see that would be no doubt. So
It's great.
now that we've touched on a little bit of the history, a longer history than I think most would expect, but kind of getting back to a few of the titles, maybe just we can touch on them a little bit further. And we've kind of talked about it a little bit in advance, but we talked about Morrowind really being a turning point. What are some of the things beyond just sort of the newer features it brought out, or maybe the simplification of the story that some longtime fans didn't like, that really started to bring, you think, like the series into what it is now, and why it is becoming so renowned? Because certainly there are so many elements that I think we just touched on very, very briefly, that it's like, oh yeah, I can think of 20 other games that use systems like that now. Why Elder Scrolls? Why is it that much more
I
special?
think part of it is they were one of the first ones that kind of did it mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, like Oblivion was the first time I got to like choose a class, and also then like refine how that character actually, like I didn't like what are all of these? How much research and reading do I have to do before I start a game? Usually it's like, oh, the bad guy took the thing. So I'd never seen that before.
Mm.
So I think, being the first one on the market kind of stakes a claim as to being recognizable for it.
Sure.
So that way they just kind of knocked it at the right time.
What are some of the classes in these games? Because you mentioned the cat people from Elsewhere. What else can you be?
Well, those are races. There's.
Oh,
you
okay.
can
Oh,
choose-
sorry. Hold on.
So there's. I don't remember how many different, but there's Argonians, which are lizard people. There's the Khajiit, which are the cat people. There's like 3 different types of elves, and then 4 different people subsects. Right, because there's the Britons, the Redguards, the Nords, and then there's like the High Elves, the Dark Elves, the Green, the Wood Elves. I almost said Green Elf. Wood Elves, yeah.
What else?
And then all of those can be different types of classes. So you can have like a mage, or you can have a thief, or you can have a warrior,
Mm-hmm. Nice.
which are pretty much 3 basic ones, right?
Kind of like everything you would expect to find in like a Dungeons and Dragons game, or like Final Fantasy, right? Like different types of mages, different types of thief, or whatever it might be, or bandit in some games, right?
Yeah, and I think like in Oblivion there's like rogue and all those other ones.
Love
that
a
were there
thief,
too.
love a bandit.
And then they got rid of that in Skyrim.
Oh,
And it's just like, what standing stone do you want to stand underneath? For now. and then you get that blessing, and then you can change it later on. Whereas with Skyrim, you locked it, or with Oblivion, you locked it in, and that was your gameplay for the whole time. You couldn't change your special stuff halfway through.
Wow. And so so then you basically get all these different versions of characters that you can be. And does it affect your skill sets at all? Like, let's say you are one of those races and you mix that with a certain class. Are some more attuned to those classes than others would be? Like, would some of the lizard people be more akin to being like a warrior?
Yeah. If you want stealth build, do a Khajiit for sure.
I think the cats are more sneaky.
Yeah, because they can see in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So right there's where you don't have to have like a torch or anything like that. I think like on the opposite, like there's the orc race, which they're great for like a tank build. Like if you really just want someone to go in there with like a double warhammer and just like and they even have like bonuses where like you can do like berserk, where all of a sudden like you have a whole bunch of extra like adrenaline and you just like can smash for extra like endurance swings.
Nice.
But on the flip side, you probably don't want to play an orc as like a thief, because they don't have the same kind of sneak bonuses right off the bat.
Sure. Okay, so there's definitely, I can kind of see where maybe Skyrim tried to simplify that system a little bit. Like, you probably want to be somewhere in these, but I could also see why people would get upset though.
Yeah, you want to be able to do magic.
Yeah.
Right.
No matter what you do, you're gonna end up having a sneak bow attack sometimes, because it's just so damn efficient.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
I love the bow and arrow in Skyrim. It is like, and just sneak attacks with the bow, getting critical hits. It's what life's about.
So what are the classes that are I should say, what races and classes do you both tend to go for in your characters?
I always end up being either a dark elf, because they have fire resistance, which is really helpful. Or honestly, it's split between the Orgonians and the Khajiits.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm either a lizard person or a cat person for the whole playthrough.
Love it.
Yeah, but usually I'm an archer with magic. So there's been a couple times, and honestly, like I'll play the same character and see him like morph into 5 different types of characterizations and stuff by the end of it. But yeah, like I always like doing the like where you just end up like messing around a little bit too much. Like I like getting the spells where like you can kind of like send rage at other people, and then you just sit aside and you just like shoot a rage spell at some bandits, and then you watch one of them just start pummeling the guy next to him. And then, when they're done fighting,
Oh yeah.
then you come in and you just loot everything.
That's good
great
stuff.
Yeah, I do that.
I love it. So good. I just love there's always like 4 different approaches you can go at. I mean, and I think that is something that's great about a lot of gaming now, that they are giving you more of like the option to like brute force your way through it, or you can be tactical. And I think, one of the games that started adapting that system, probably looking at a game like the Elder Scrolls, was like the Arkham Asylum and Arkham City games, where it's like you can either bull in there as Batman and just start taking down a room full of thugs, or you can start picking them off one by one, which is so much.
Yeah, like Skyrim had stealth in it, but it's not like the best stealth, but it's as much as you need, because like it has, I don't know if you guys remember when you play, it's like you crouch and you have the eyeball. If someone can see you on the screen, there's like an eyeball in the middle, and then like if you're hidden, the eyeball like closes and it's like just a slit. And I just love that as you're like sneaking up, the eyeball gets a little bigger. Oh, nope, you're going to hide. And yeah, I'm always a cat or an Argonian because like I'm a person every day and it's just fine. I'd rather be like a cat or a lizard if I'm playing a game like this.
That's great. What class then do you usually go for?
Don't quite remember the classes. I will say I spend most of my time, I'd either have my bow, I'd be shooting people far away, or I'd be like a two-handed sword guy, like one in each hand, just kind of coming at someone, just attacking.
I like it.
I didn't really mess with the magic too much.
No, you're more of the physical skills versus your mana or anything.
It's like I'm either taking them out from afar, I'm being stealthy, or I'm just coming at you with two knives as quick as I can. Like I love daggers.
Yeah, the two-handed animations for Skyrim and in Oblivion, those two, I love watching them because it's so like that's another thing. You never saw characters doing that. You know, like where you just stab, and then they turn and slice. Like it was great. It was so cool. Like I'm watching that happen when I was first playing it the first time, and now you see it all the time. But like, this is revolutionary.
Yeah.
Yeah, like having action in an RPG in general was not a thing. Like I was saying before, that's what kept me away from them. And just having like, especially you mentioned Fable really kind of opened my eyes to like, you can have it both ways. You can have good story and you can be like just attacking people.
Yeah, there was definitely a turn at some point in time. I think because in a lot of people's minds back in the day, an RPG was turn-based. Like I think, Final Fantasy is one of the more famous ones, or Dragon Quest, or even look at, like some of the tactical games like Fire Emblem. Like it's like, oh, sit, plan your move, plan your attack. And then it's like all of a sudden it's like, nope, you're out in the field. Here's your menu. Go at it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a big change because suddenly it's like, yeah, there's almost a hit of adrenaline that goes in with all your strategy, and you have to kind of pre-plan before you ever get into any battle, right? Like, here's what I need. Here's what I'm gonna have. I can't sit there and think about how is this enemy going to do it, which was such a staple of like a Dungeons and Dragons pen and paper game back in the day, right? Where it's like, okay, you've come across this bridge that's broken. What is your next move? And then you have to roll the dice, see if it works, right?
And also, you had companions in these games. I never really had like backup or helpers that you could interact with as the story progressed in any other video game before I started playing Oblivion and Skyrim.
How big does your party get?
Traditionally, it's just one extra companion.
Mm-hmm.
But with mods and stuff, you can vary that and get a bunch.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had a whole care. I have or there's also like there's special characters in Skyrim, like you can just kind of collect their quests and they'll just follow you around for a while. But, like there's the Barbus, there's the dog, which is part of one of the Daedric princes. Clavicus Vile, and so like you have to follow him to do some quest or whatever to find a thing and then bring it back. So you can pick him up. There's the vampire daughter Serana that you can pick up, and she becomes a companion of yours. So I have both of them following me around right now in my game. Plus, I downloaded the Inigo mod, which is another Khajiit follower that just follows you around and has a bunch of like really snarky things to say about everything that happens.
They're just like, so that just happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like the sarcastic friend.
There's someone behind me, isn't there?
Right. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
I like it.
So there's a way to get a pretty good sized posse in these games rolling around.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into some talk about some of the mods here shortly. I did want to ask though about some of the journeying though that you do and how it varies and how your gameplay varies, whether you choose to do the good guy route versus the more evil route, and how does the experience with the game change that? And then maybe we can talk about, I don't know if it makes sense to talk about one game or the other, or if you want to even compare a few of them, but like how that experience has changed between like Morrowind or all the way to like Elder Scrolls Online.
I usually kind of play a good guy character, honestly. Like, I've tried to go bad, but I still feel shitty about it. Even as I'm like, I know I'm here to be help you. Oh, here's your gold, or
You're just way too guilty.
I know. It's so stupid.
I know. I don't know if you guys ever play the like Telltale games or anything like that, where you have to like make the conversation choices.
No.
So there's like these games like where, I mean, it's basically a visual novel, and the whole game mechanic is that like you're building relationships with people and you're responding in certain ways. So they'll get 3 options for a response, and one is like very catty, or one is very supportive, and one is very like indifferent. And I always find it funny when I play these games, and it's like, I know what I want to say to these people, but I always end up taking the high road. I'm like, no, I'll be supportive. Like, it's like, like, I'm just like, God, I'm so fucking positive. Like, why can't I just tell somebody off and be like, you know what? No, you're a dick. Like, but it's like the story always changes depending on how you treat a character. And they're like, oh, they'll remember you said that. It's like,
Yeah.
well, like,
Yeah, I always love that.
I know. So don't worry, Erik. It's it happens to the best of us. I think there's that altruistic side.
Yeah, there you go. It's just it's a sign that we are too good at people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to be a thief. I like to steal shit from people when I play these games. You'll find me at the Thieves Guild hanging. No, I do always start as good, and I always have the plan. I'm just gonna wait for that one a life event that's gonna put me down the wrong road. I always go for like a Darth Vader sort of, I'm gonna be good till like halfway, and then someone's gonna not look at me right in the pub, and like from there on, I'm just gonna be a jerk.
Yeah.
So
that's just good plot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun that you can make that turn at any point. So, as a thief, though, can you do an altruistic thief, or is it always sort of like, well, you're kind of living in shades of gray with that role?
That's kind of what I think it is, because you have like the Thieves Guild who they'll tell you they're the good guys, but do you really believe them? They're thieves.
Well, that's okay. So that's the thing between Oblivion and Skyrim. Again, I think you get to play an altruistic thief in Oblivion. For there's a couple of quests where you're literally like, hey, go steal from the treasury and give it back to the people of this neighborhood because they got fucked in their taxes. And in Skyrim, it's just like, hey, go steal from this other thief who stole from us. Like, it's still great and amazing, but you don't get to really explore like the moral dilemma of being a thief, or like this is the only option that I don't know. Again, for me, the Thieves Guild storyline in Oblivion is better than the Thieves Guild in Skyrim.
Yeah, can we maybe talk a little bit about that, maybe between both of you guys? So I guess with you, Erik, since you've played both, what is it that really highlights Oblivion as sort of like the favorite of maybe most people over even like a game that was so widely awarded and lauded like Skyrim? Like what were all the aspects beyond the maybe more broad choices? Was there more to it though, that it was like this game just really got it a little bit better?
It's funny, like, for obviously the reason it got all the awards was it's breathtaking and all the detail and the scope of it. But for whatever reason, like the accomplishments like closing out all the different Radiant quest lines, like the Thieves Guild quest line. I kind of felt disappointed at the end of the Skyrim Thieves Guild quest line because it's like you beat the bad guy by whatever, so now you're the head of the thing. Blah, you know. Whereas with the Oblivion Thieves Guild, you help the guy that is like the Gray Fox, and he's cursed to have been forgotten by everyone in his life, so that he can be the best thief in the world by assuming his role, and like he can then reconnect with his wife and his family and stuff. Like so, like just the story arc that you're given is, I think, more rewarding. And I could say the same thing for like the Mages Guild quest line in Oblivion is way more rewarding. Like you get to find this big deal, whereas with like the Mages quest line in Skyrim is you're pretty much just like handed the job of being the dean of the college after like 5 quests, and it's like that's it. And it's just that over and over and over again. Like it's there's a lot of promise, but there's never the kind of payout that you got in Oblivion for me. So that's what tips it. If I'm being a connoisseur of the games, which is why you've brought me here.
Indeed.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I would say Skyrim, why I think some of those like those kind of missions fall short at the end, because they're trying to have this kind of big cinematic story at the helm with the dragons and all that. Which, when we were talking about why is there so much success to these games, I can tell you part of the reason why Skyrim was extra successful was a little show called Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't like dragons, man?
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
So there were a lot more dragons in Skyrim, is what you're telling me.
There were.
Well, I'm just thinking that plot of dragons.
So yeah.
But I think you're hitting on something big though, Fred. I kind of think of it in the same way as like superhero movies and shows and everything, like really escalating comic books too. I think shows like Game of Thrones and to an extent even like Lord of the Rings, which was before it, really brought like fantasy and adventure, like sci-fi, into the forefront in a way that it never was pre-2000. Like it's definitely, and it's now it's so high in demand. That's why Elden Ring was such a phenomenon. I know we keep coming back to that, but it's the most recent example of people latching onto another story that was written by George R.R. Martin, right? Like, so here you have,
right,
the exact example of that, of literally like, well, why don't we take what we did with Elder Scrolls and just get the guy that did Lord of the Rings to do it? So,
right. And it's good you brought up Lord of the Rings, because Oblivion, I believe, is very indebted to the Lord of the Rings. They bring it up in their documentary, and people working on Oblivion are literally saying like, oh, we want people to see some of Lord of the Rings in this. Like the end, like I saw some of the end very sore on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The Oblivion Gates. That is the Sauron's eye on the top of the thing.
Yeah. Well, this is the spoiler alert for everybody right now before we get any further. But
spoiler alert. The big glowing eye in the Lord of the Rings movie is the bad guy.
And then the eye that fills kind of a door frame in Oblivion.
Yeah. Which, okay, that's another great thing I loved about Oblivion, is those damn Oblivion gates kept popping up all the time. Like, it was again, the reason the game would go on forever. Because, like, you could never stop. It was like a whack-a-mole where you would just jump to a different dimension and get all of this great overpowered gear that you could sell for a shit ton of gold back in the regular game world. And then you close it out. Sorry, just another reason why I love Oblivion more.
Oh no,
that's my number one.
I'm glad you brought up money. I'm glad you brought up money because I want to know, like, do you like to collect stacks when you play these games? You like making some moolah? Because I know I love that. I love just kind of like when I play Grand Theft Auto, like getting like good gear and getting like selling stuff and just kind of creating wealth, buying houses.
Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. I love I mean, for the most part, like a lot of the gold that I get is just the stuff that I collect and find in different things. I don't do a lot of trading and selling. But when I start, like one of the things that I do, like when I start anew, like if I need to get a good amount of cash, is like I'll go from one town to another, and I'll just like I'll buy a couple of things from one caravan and I'll take it to a different city and I'll sell it. And I'll actually try to like actually do a mercantile thing, because it does two things. First off, it gives you all of the fast travel points to all the different cities.
Mm-hmm.
And second, it's a great way to kind of like build a little bit of a coin purse before you go out and be like, okay, now I can buy suitable armor to go fight the main thing.
So this is probably a dumb question to be asking later.
And you're building stats too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you dude, whenever I'm running around, I'm jumping. I don't just walk all over the place.
You're actually building up stats.
Yeah, because it builds up your agility all the time.
Yeah. So this is sort of a dumb question to ask, but I guess my understanding was always that you can get a different experience, or kind of as we've been talking about, you get a different experience based on whatever, class you are, what race, whatever, like good, evil story you go through, whatever. But so is there still though like a main storyline that's pretty like set in stone no matter what choices you make for each of these games?
Yeah. I mean, and they're definitely like established like canon, like this is what happened at the Oblivion break before you get into Skyrim. Like they had to actually say like this is one of the things that certainly occurred.
Okay.
So yeah, so like with Oblivion, if you're going to play the main quest, you're going to eventually beat the Daedric Prince that's opening up all of these gates. And once you finish that quest line, all of the Oblivion gates stop opening up everywhere. And then you're just free to roam around and do whatever you want.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And the same thing in Oblivion. No matter what you choose to do, you will be the Dragonborn. And if you accept those quests, you will beat the big dragon that's fighting everybody, and you'll beat the game. And then you'll be free to just wander around and do whatever the hell you want and continue, being the... See, I don't know. It's weird because I always end up 100%ing the game, like almost every time I do a playthrough. Like,
wow.
Yeah. Like not 100%ing it, but like I'll be the head of the Mages Guild, the head of the Thieves Guild, the head of the Fighters Guild, or the Companions Guild, or whatever. I'll be a Jarl in every single one of the different towns. Just because the quest lines naturally kind of, I think, lead you through that. Like you can't just do one or the other.
That's impressive, though. I assume that's not everybody's experience, is that they go down and try to do everything.
No,
I never beat it.
You never beat it?
I never beat it.
Oh, dude.
Well, Erik just told you how Skyrim ends.
No, I know. Yeah. I got
that guy gets beat. I'm not telling you the details.
Well, I became a vampire for a little while, and that was a real rough life. You had to suck people's blood or your health would go away. You lose power in the sun.
Okay, let me ask you this. Was Phalion hard to find for you?
Oh, I was using the internet to do stuff like this. Like I don't use that too much, but when I heard, oh, you can be a vampire, oh, you can be a werewolf, I definitely was like, how do I do these things? Because becoming a werewolf was the way to go. Being a vampire was kind of lame.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like when you wanted to cure yourself of vampirism, finding one guy in the world that could do it, pain in the ass, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was more like I had a list online of all right, these are the things you have to do to get rid of your vampirism. And I was like, oh, so much regret. I shouldn't have done that.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't do it that way. talked to a bunch of people in different taverns until I heard a rumor.
Rumors.
Wow.
I see there's something wrong with your eyes. Maybe someone you should go talk to Felion.
I know a good optometrist.
Yeah.
Should go see Dr. Pepper. So we got the main gist of those two. And then Morrowind, it sounds like, did have kind of a main quest there too as well, where it's like there's you're on Svardenfell, which is an island in the Dummer, which is the Dark Elf province of Morrowind. And the central quest is around like a demigod named Dagath who's housed within the volcanic Red Mountain, who seeks to gain power and break Morrowind free from Imperial reign.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
Yep, and there's a lot of freedom I hear in that game of how you can approach like any of the story and any of the missions. It's kind of like, oh, you have to go talk to this guy across the way. Good luck with that. And then you're kind of set on your way. Skyrim is like you're in like an opening scene of a movie. You're not quite in control. You're just looking around. It's kind of like the modern game conventions, the stuff that I do like, like I'm definitely the kind of person who needs a little hand holding. But yeah, it sounds like Morrowind was definitely like, oh, you figure out what this game is. We're not going to tell you.
Right, yeah.
Which, yeah, I think I the more we talk, the more it's starting to become very apparent why players who have been with the franchise for a while were frustrated. Like, I could see them being like, yeah, I want autonomy to do whatever I want and not have to go and hit the cinematic scene breakpoint that you would get in like a lot of mainline stories. Like, I mean, I'm playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor right now, and it's very much yes, there's side quests you can do, but ultimately you have to come back to a point and continue on the main storyline, and it'll get an FMV break, in order to continue on what you're watching or playing.
Yeah.
Does it have our favorite type of character that urges you to stop doing whatever you feel like doing and keep doing the game?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely.
I know we talked about this before.
There's definitely one character that is like, if you want to go around and do something, that's fine. I'm staying in the ship. And you're like, okay,
oh, yeah,
so
that's
yeah.
I love that so much. Like, I think I talked about like on the like Harry Potter game I played growing up. Anytime you'd walk around the castle, Ron just a wet blanket, like, we really need to get to potions class, and he would say that like over and over again. It's like, dude, I just want to walk around, man.
It's true. Which I really appreciated in God of War recently. I don't know if you guys both played God of War Ragnarok. But
yes.
the best feature they put in there, and obviously they amped up the patterns a little too quick, I felt like, but whenever you went off the main trail and everybody you're with, or especially your son, would call out that, oh, that's my dad, he just likes to loot. It's like,
yeah, and I'm just the kind of I feel bad making everyone wait.
I know. They're like, you're like, oh shit, they're calling out my looting now. So there's one more I want to talk about a little bit further before we start really getting into the idea of mods and some of this coulda, woulda, shoulda that I think kind of goes with it. But Elder Scrolls Online then, Erik, so you mentioned that you kind of come into more of a prequel, but is there a lot more of that autonomy that people were looking for from like the Oblivion era versus Skyrim?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like the Elder Scrolls Online.
Wow.
As much as the others. I mean, it's beautiful. It looks great. I think I got spoiled with voice acting in Skyrim, and they don't have that in the Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh, that's a bummer.
So you just have to read the text. And I don't like that. I don't like the fact that there's 1,000 other people running around in the same world that I'm playing it,
Yeah.
So like, honestly, I haven't explored that game a lot. Not only that, but like the button controls are different. than all their other games. You know what I mean? So I'm very used to like, you shoot this, you shoot that. I've never taken the time to bother with it. And I got kind of pissed off about the whole subscription thing at the beginning. So that also was like, I'll just put it on the back burner. Like, I got the game, I got the disc, I played a little bit of it, I got an idea for it. Don't care for it. Don't care.
Wow. Are you guys online gamers in general or not really? So outside of Elder Scrolls Online, do you like to play ever online, or are you mostly like, nope, I want this on my console so I can just play my journey?
Yes. Yeah, I'm that player. I don't like sharing my virtual world with other people. Same thing with like, I'm playing No Man's Sky a lot right now, and they have like, you can partner up with a whole bunch of people from around the world and solve this big mission. And they're like, no, just me. Later. Yeah. I'm going to go survey this entire planet by myself, because that's why I'm playing this video game. You know? So I don't know. Like that just kind of, it turned me off from it. And also like that and the Elder Scroll Blades, like any of those that have all those extra like micro purchases, where it's like, go to the game store and you can get this stuff to help get you more immersed in a game that you've already pulled yourself out of to purchase shit. You know, like any of that, I'm done with, you know. So that, I didn't like it very much.
Yeah, I don't like for these kind of games. I don't like online game, or I don't like the online play. Like, especially, I'm gonna invoke it again in Elden Ring. Characters can get an item where you can go into someone else's game and attack them, and that happened to me the other day. I'm just like, dude, I'm trying to do my own thing, and it's like. Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, I do enjoy, like, I used to love playing games like Call of Duty and this and that, but what you just talked about, Eric, is the problem. There are these microtransactions, these crates that I get. Like, oh, you got to open these 3 crates that got nothing in them. And like, I'd rather drop, like, I would still be like a Call of Duty person. I enjoy playing shooting games like that, but they've gotten so messy with all that crap. I don't really play with them. The only online game I stand by and always recommend is Dead by Daylight. I love that as an online game experience.
Good things about that.
Maybe this fall, maybe we'll play a little bit of that for the pod. I think it'd be fun. I try to get anyone to get in on that to play, because it's not something I expect people wanting to play all the time. But it is kind of fun. It gives you, if you ever played like Ghost of the Graveyard or like Nighttime Tag, it's like that as a game. It gives you kind of that adrenaline rush, and it's a good time.
That does sound fun. But I'm totally with you guys though too. Especially for fantasy games, I don't want to play online with people. That's why World of Warcraft, I know some people got completely sucked into that. I was like, you'll never get me on that game, because I will just get irritated trying to play with other people. Like, not that type of game. A shooting game, like LAN parties back at Halo days, all that. Like you're just talking about with Call of Duty. Sure, yeah, I'm all aboard, and I love tagging people and playing like, you know, like capture the flag or whatever too. That's fun. But yeah, nothing like that. So I guess that kind of gets us though to our coulda, woulda, shoulda segment, where we can maybe talk about some of these mods and maybe what are some things that, I guess, what's available now with the mods, and is there anything you would dream about doing further with those? Maybe Eric, if you want to kind of talk us through what kind of mods there are. You mentioned the party expansion, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, dude, these days in the mods that are out there, you can literally do almost anything. Really? Oh God, yeah. I mean, they have my favorite mod. Okay, so they have all different types of mods too. They have like environmental enhancement mods. They have mods that are like just purely aesthetics. Like you can change your character to be like, they make them look like an anime character, or just like really smooth out, give it almost like the Unreal Engine type of definition.
Yeah.
But then there's also like people that will make full-on quests and new areas, and like just even build even more. Like one of my favorite mods that is out there is called the Forgotten City, which is you literally, I don't want to ruin it for you, but the setup is that your character finds essentially this city that is in a Dwemer cave. And if you don't know much about the Dwemer is a lost race of elves that lived underground. They were kind of like the dwarves, but they were an elven race. And they were amazingly technologically advanced. And then the jury is kind of out as to why, but one day the entire race vanished, just bleeped out of existence, either because their leader messed with the heart of Lorcan, and that was just kind of brought them all to the realization that they were all part of reality and not a permanent to it. And so then they just kind of faulted out, or they pissed off one of the gods and they're like, because of your arrogance, you are now no longer in existence. Or they just got bumped into a pocket reality of oblivion that no one knows anything about, and we don't know if they're ever going to be seen again. But the point is they left behind, when they just blinked out of existence, they left all of their caves and their technology behind. And one of those caves people found, and they built a city inside of. But they got caught in a time loop where essentially they have to always follow the rules of these like statued heads that are on the walls. Mm-hmm. And if anyone ever breaks one of these unspoken morality rules, these fire, like all of a sudden all these like Dwemer robots come out and just burn the entire city to the ground. And your job is to uncover what's wrong with this city to stop this loop from happening. So like you get magically transported to the city and you are stuck in this time loop. And if you make a mistake, you get to see all of these robots come out and just decimate everyone around you. You die, respawn back at the beginning of the quest line, and have to start the whole thing over again.
Wow.
Until you finally, yeah, it's really, really deep. And the directions that it takes you is like it's more thought out than anything else that I've played in a long time. And it's such a cool like detective story on top of it. Cause like it's just clues and talking to people and figuring out like there's one thing that you can do to correct this whole thing and get everything to be rebalanced in time again. So yeah, so that's one. There's mods that you can go. There's actually one where like you get a rocket that will follow you in space, and you can, like call down fights or like attacks on your people. There's all different races. There's a different group of automaton creatures that live in the center of the world that someone created and made a mod for, and you can go down and help them preserve the towers of the world so the entire Nirn just collapses on itself.
Oh.
And there's also ones where like, you know, all of a sudden all of the dragons are like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Throwback to an old episode of ours.
Yeah. So
I did want to
whatever you want.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers, you can go into the Super Mario Brothers world.
Oh wow.
As a mod.
Ooh,
and download.
I like that.
Yeah. So like you see like big Goombas and you can run all the way around them and jump on top of them, pick up hammers.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I love it, man. You really there. The sky's the limit, like, or the sky rims the limit. Hey,
I was hoping you were going to say that.
That's another thing they're doing. There's a whole like Sky Oblivion. They're actually rebuilding Oblivion in the Skyrim engine.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Which that's like
ambitious.
I've been following that story for years. It's still like a bunch of years off from them completing it, but they're like redoing every asset there, all the people, all the buildings, all the grass.
I mean, that sounds like a big coulda, woulda, shoulda here. Is just people wanting an Oblivion remake, right?
I want to see that same thing with all of them. I would love to play Morrowind.
Morrowind's the one I want to check out for sure.
Yeah, I do, with updated modern day graphics. Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, and it's so popular right now too that so many games are going through remakes. I mean, the Resident Evil series, like that's been getting such grand applause from everybody about how much they love the remakes. I mean, like Metal Gear Solid's getting remakes now. I think we just saw Persona, one of the early ones, is getting a remake, and you know, it's a lot of like fun games that are trying to be brought into the next generation here. And yeah, it seems like everything I'm hearing is like, yeah, Elder Scrolls is the obvious one that might take some time, but going to be well worth it.
Yeah. A big one I'm looking forward to is I never played these games, but I think like a remade version will be right up my alley, or the Silent Hill games. I think Silent Hill 2 is getting remade.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Tom, you didn't ask me what mods I like.
Fred, what kind of mods do you like?
Slaps only. I like paintball mode.
Boo.
Then you shoot some arrows and it's paintball. DK head, make the head real big, the arms super long.
Oh my gosh. But golden guns only, so that's one shot kill.
No, I do have one thing that was not really a mod, but kind of a glitch that people took advantage of. And it was either Morrowind, or no, it was either Oblivion or Elder Scrolls, or excuse me, Skyrim. There's a fork and knife that is supposed to just be on a table you can't interact with, and people were able to use it as weapons. So there's videos where people have leveled up these forks and knives, and they're like, you know, we talked about the two-handed daggers. Imagine just like a fork and knife just getting in there, taking care of business.
Oh yeah, man, you can do that with your fishing rod too. You can use that as a weapon.
Let him cook. Let him cook.
Give me a fishing rod.
Yeah. I did want to jump in though, because Eric, when you said the Forgotten City, that triggered something in my brain. The Forgotten City, I'm pretty sure, got adapted into a full game. Like, it's not just a mod anymore from Skyrim. It's actually like, I think, got brought into like Nintendo Switch and PlayStation as like an own standalone version of the game. Yeah, and it's gotten a lot of great reviews. I didn't realize it was a Elder Scrolls mod that's
the same thing. It's the same thing. Yeah, that's wonderful. It's such a good story. That makes a lot of sense that you could breathe that into a full game just by itself. I mean, that's well done. Good guys.
Sounds cool.
Well, something Bethesda was talking about with the mods were that they did have a program or a setup where they were getting some money to some of these people who were making these projects. I wonder if that was one of them. I heard there was a lot of downside to this, that they ended up just kind of profiting off of these people more than actually paying them. Mm-hmm. But it is nice that they made the attempt, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's a really kind of slippery slope to navigate as far as like, what is it?
Right. I guess, yeah, it is a two-edged sword, because in the one hand, it's like you're promoting creators who are maybe finding stories in your property that are more interesting than maybe your own team has even been able to discover, because they're probably already thinking about the next project already, right? Like, they don't want to spend more time on Skyrim expanding it. But, yeah, you have fans who have plenty of time, have the ability to write. But yeah, then it's like if the creators embrace this, you know, right, obviously they're going to give them a platform, but then it's also going to be probably played by their rules, right? And like, and we're going to take a little bit out of the pocket because, you know, that's our IP that you're using right there.
Right. Yeah.
So
before we moved on a little further, I want to like ask something that maybe we'll put a pin in for like the ultra future. I did want to ask Eric if he played any of the Fallout games.
Ooh.
Hell yeah, dude! I played all of the Fallout. Well, no, I can't say that either. I haven't played one or two because, again, I don't have a gaming PC. I only play stuff on consoles. But I have played all the other Fallouts. I played Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, which is by far my favorite. Fallout 4, 76, the Vaults one.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever the mobile game one.
You're the second person that I've heard say Las Vegas is like kind of like a hidden gem of those games.
Best game. Look, New Vegas, and especially the DLCs of New Vegas, I think were great. Just and again, it's all because of the story. You're following around this other courier who's all pissed off at you because you ruined his world somehow. Like just the way that the information is dropped, is fantastic. It's way better than Fallout 3's expansion packs. Like it was still cool, but not as cool as like, oh, you get to go up into an actual alien spaceship in New Vegas, whereas Fallout 3 you get to go into a simulator.
Right. Yeah, well, I did just want to ask that and maybe put a pin into like maybe a future episode. Could happen. Oh, there's some pointing going on, and I see he's not a big boy. He's God, the word stud muffin came in my brain. I don't know why that came
Glad
from.
lad?
He's a best boy.
That works.
What's the name of that guy with
Vault
the
Boy.
blonde hair?
Vault
Vault Boy. Damn.
Bald boy. Yeah, which it's pretty unmistakable when you see it, which Erik has on his shelf. We can see right now.
Yeah, if you want to talk about swag, I got swag galore. I've actually made some of this stuff. And also, just so you know, I also have been cooking all the recipes from the Elder Scrolls.
Oh my
What?
gosh. You said the magic word,
Erik is
Erik.
holding a cookbook right now, which and I think I've talked about this podcast. I love these unofficial cookbooks. I have one mine's the official for Sopranos.
This is the official cookbook.
That's an official? Oh, hell yes. I need to take a look at that.
Oh,
That's
dude.
cool.
Oh, man. There's so many good recipes in here. Honey lavender bread is amazing.
Sounds good.
That does sound really good.
It's so good. It's so good. And elsewhere, fondue, which is just white wine, Gruyere cheese, and you just make it with a little bit of roasted garlic in the pan before you melt the cheese and the wine together. And you dust some nutmeg on top.
I feel like we need to have an Elder Scrolls meal night or something like that.
I've got all my makeup from my cat's party I did. I could come as a Khajiit.
Hell yeah, dude.
I like it. I did want to talk about one more thing within our coulda, woulda, shoulda, because I think we kind of glossed over this before. Is some of the voice actors are quite notable in these games. In Morrowind and in Oblivion, Linda Carter, Wonder Woman herself, was a voice actor. We also had in Oblivion Patrick Stewart, Sean Bean, and Terrence Stamp. Terrence Stamp, you'll know, is Zod, the original General Zod before Michael Shannon filled the...
Which the creator had him say kneel before Todd.
I
Which
got...
was a video I saw.
Oh, is that real?
Yeah, I'm serious. I watched like a video of Todd going to London to meet with Terrence Stamp, and you get to see, like, I really recommend the Oblivion documentary on YouTube. It's a lot of interviews, and it follows kind of like the start of it till they showed footage at it of whatever Xbox thing they do. And it was the best thing I watched. It wasn't just some fanboy being like, this is why I don't like this anymore. It was literally good interviews. And yeah, it had some Terrence Stamp interviews, and it was cool hearing him being like, I didn't really know what this was as a video game, but when I read the script, I just knew I had to do it. You know, like, they love saying this dialogue. I got the vibe that they just were about it.
I love it. That's so good.
And Linda voiced all the Nordic women, I guess, was like her vocal thing. Any sort of Nord woman you came across was Linda Carter.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Just like the Amazonians, yeah. So then Skyrim, then we had Max von Sydow, Christopher Plummer, Joan Allen, and then Erik might get this video or watch the series, but Fred, you might remember from our Battlestar Galactica episode, Michael Hogan, who was the general that got very like sea piratey right later on in the series. Hopefully he's doing well after the accident we reported on in that episode. But But yeah, it's definitely no shortage of notable names. I mean, these are like Oscar-winning performers in this. Or
I didn't know that about Skyrim. That's pretty cool. Especially like I love some Joan Allen just doing MVP work, I'm assuming.
oh my gosh, yeah, no doubt. So I guess the question would be then for a Elder Scrolls 6, what are some things you would like to see out of that game, and maybe who would you want cast in there?
Oh, that's requiring me to have a working knowledge of current celebrities.
Maybe we'll ask you, Erik, what are the mechanics or what are the things you would want to see actually out of the game himself? Fred, you do some dream casting.
Okay. Well, honestly, as far as with Skyrim 6, I have been kind of watching all of the news on what they're doing with Starfield.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that they kind of like apply those lessons with every single game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they got a good idea of how to do a multi like an MMO with Elder Scrolls Online, and then they tried to apply it to Fallout 76 and kind of screwed the pooch with that because they went way too far in the wrong direction. So I think they're course correcting. I think Starfield. I just watched their their long presentation on what it's all going to be about, and it looks like they're starting to bring back all of those kind of critiques that people had from, you're boiling down the characters into really, really more simple dialogue options. You can't really, you only have so many different subsets of classes, and they're like, we have this many, like they really went out of their way to show, like, we have this many options for this game. And I think that is going to be something I'm going to see again in Elder Scrolls 6. I'm hoping for, So, I mean, really what I want to see is I want to see all of the classes and everything from Oblivion. I want to see the spell crafting ability from Oblivion coming back in. I know that they're going to be in Hammerfell, so that's a Redguard focused storyline. So it definitely is going to be like, I think the sword singing is going to be the actual, like, as opposed to a Dragonborn, is going to be this guy that can just make spirit swords.
Wow,
as the thing. That's a rumor I heard. I don't know if it's real. But I want to see, I want that. Like in Oblivion, you could make a spell that would unlock a lock. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or you could make a spell that would just make something fly. Like I want that. Like I want to be able to just do whatever the crap that I want with it. Kind of like what Tears of the Kingdom is doing right now with all the mechanical, you can just build any machine you want with all these pieces.
Right.
People are just going crazy with that. I want to see that much freedom and ability put into an Elder Scrolls world. That's what I want. And also, I want to see more voice actors. That is my biggest concern. Like, it's great that you could afford Sean Bean, right? But maybe as opposed to his salary, you could have hired 50 other people. You know what I mean? So you get a lot of variation in your characters. Or just hire all of the movie celebrities and bring them in. I mean, it's Bethesda, for fuck's sake. It's not like they're hurting for money.
No, they just got bought out too, so I think they're flush right now.
By Microsoft.
Yeah. Yeah, come on now. We can do it.
Yeah, so they'll be holding the purse strings, I'm sure.
Exactly. Fred, so what are some things that you would want to see as a pickup from Skyrim, and then who would be some of your dream casting with all of your deep knowledge of Hollywood actors, or maybe even some people that you would want, some deep cut folk?
So I will say to what Erik said, I think we're in a better place to get those things that he's talking about, because I think even since Skyrim, the doors have kind of opened more on these more complex games. Elden Ring, Tears of the Kingdom, even Cyberpunk. this having more control and more freedom, more things to do is actually more popular than it was even when Skyrim came out. So I think it's very likely they'll bring back some of that stuff, because I think most gamers kind of know what to do with that now. So I agree that that's something I would like. I would like kind of a more complex system, but I don't want to lose the cinematic kind of vibe of Skyrim. I like the idea. I like that it kind of looked like an episode of Game of Thrones. I liked that it felt like an adrenaline, like there were scenes that were filled with action. I like that, but like if they can balance both sides, that'd be great. But also, I'm just excited to see a Skyrim 6 on a new gen system like the PlayStation 5 or the new Xbox, just because playing some games now, it's unreal how they look. And I know with all the time they're taking, they're going to make this game look fantastic. I would say when I was reviewing these games, there was that Redwall game, which I didn't know was pretty much like a swashbuckling pirate game mixed with kind of like an Elder Scrolls game. And I don't want the new game to be all that, but if it's going to be this big world, I kind of want to see more environments like that. I want to feel like I'm in kind of like a pirate world, and then I want to be in that kind of Nordic snow. So I think the game's going to be huge. I want to see kind of more change in the landscape. I mean, I'm not going to fight Erik saying, yeah, let's get actually voice actors and pay them well. I'm not going to come and say, like, I want Pierce Brosnan in it. That's a new big
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan, great. Get Pierce Brosnan, but have him only read for one character.
Yes, I like the idea, like what's the Ubisoft games where they just had Giancarlo Esposito as kind of the main bad guy, Far Cry.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of a cool model where we're going to sink in a lot of money. It's going to look like Dude, and it's one character. I'm going to pitch you 2 characters. I'm going to pitch you 2 Skarsgårds, a Bill and an Erik Skars. Not Erik. Not Stellan.
Alex Skarsgård.
Yeah. His name's Erik in True Blood. So I'm like, is it Erik? But give me 2 Skarsgårds, 2 different vibes, and then you have the rest of the world hire good voice actors, because that's something that came up a lot when they talked about these games. People really appreciate voice actors that sound like people and not just like, don't stop. Hey, like they want people talking to you. Yeah, I like the idea of do the Far Cry model. Get 2 well-known-ish actors, give them 2 distinct characters, give them a story, but then wrap the world around that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and also with like artificial intelligence where it is now, like you can have probably a lot more interaction with NPCs moving forward, where they'll just be actually living their own lives, and you'll be interrupting them to bother them.
It'll be Free Guy like in a game.
Yeah. Well, that was the big pitch for Morrowind, was these people are just living their lives. These characters are going about their business.
Yeah. Them having their own little route that they would run was also groundbreaking. There's something else. I really, really want, especially Tom, because you're saying that like this last game is going to be Todd Howard's like finale for his the cherry on his sundae.
Magnum opus.
Right. Yeah. Magnum opus.
There it is.
I really, really want to see a resolution to the Dwemer riddle. I want to know what happened. Why did they disappear? Where did they go? What was the answers to that? That is like the one unanswered question on all of the Elder Scrolls is what happened to the Dwemer. There's one Dwemer character that you can meet in Morrowind. And that's it.
Interesting.
It's the only character that's ever been alive for this race in all of the games. And everyone's like, because you see their robots walking around, all their steampunk cool stuff is still working, but they're not. And I really like that has to be resolved in the final game. For me, that's the one thing I'm really hoping for. It's like, just tell me what the fuck actually happened.
I love unraveling a mystery. Yeah, that's gonna be great.
I mean, but at the same time, it's been such a big mystery for so long. I'm sure that I would be, again, just disappointed. Like, really? You guys were just all hanging out here?
They're underground. Or maybe they all took an arrow to the knee. That's the only thing I know about Skyrim.
They interviewed the guy who worked on the game who came up with that in the documentary, and I thought that was pretty funny. That they're like, yeah, that was me. Yeah, I thought of that story. The arrow in the knee, that was me.
Hilarious. That's the mystery that we all wanted solved, was who came up with that plot.
I heard that actually comes from like an old saying.
Could be.
It means that the guy got married. Yeah. If you take an arrow in the knee, it's because he was bending on one knee.
Like, I guess maybe that's like the olden term for like, because that's like I married by like I didn't want to, right? Like I took an arrow in the knee sounds like to me like I didn't want to kneel down to propose, but I got an arrow in my knee, so I kneeled.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't. I'm just saying. I heard that it's a traditional, because then when you're married, you can't go adventuring as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So then you got to get a job and you got to walk around the town.
Yeah.
So instead of the old ball and chain, it's the old arrow and
Well, I think in Fable you could start some families and just kind of move on. I think I did that quite a few times.
That's crazy. I like it. Well, so that being said, I have no great segue to go to our power rankings, but why not? Erik, I know you've talked a lot about which games you were more partial to than not, but now we want you to put your money where your mouth is and put a label of 1, 2, and 3 on your top 3 Elder Scrolls games.
Well, number 1 is Oblivion. I think I've given a lot of good arguments for why Oblivion should be the number 1. But to surmise, it's more detailed, better character development as far as freedom. You can gamble in it, and the storylines kind of are a little bit more, I think, mature and interesting for an adult player. Number 2, I think, would be Skyrim, just because it's a little bit more advanced graphically. It's beautiful. It's got dragons in it. And it's the one that made me fall in love with the entire franchise. So that for me gives it the number 2 spot. The number 3 spot is kind of tough because like I've played Morrowind for like a little bit, like just the opening, like you getting off the boat and you explore that first town that you're in. And Elder Scrolls Online and the Elder Scrolls Blades are the only other 3 games of the Elder Scrolls that I've played. And of those 3, Elder Scrolls Online would have to be the third one. As much as I don't like it, I don't have enough experience with Morrowind to make a good judgment on it. I'm sorry. The Blades is just clogged with microtransactions to the point where I am just so frustrated. You open it up and it gives you a free gold chest if you want to purchase it.
No.
Yeah, I know. It's like
that's
whatever.
ridiculous.
I hate it. I hate that game. It doesn't do anything to advance anything in the story.
Yeah.
Bad. At least with the Elder Scrolls Online, like it's fleshing out the world and the universe, So that's why. That's why ESO gets the 3rd spot.
Fair enough. Well, you heard it here first, the top 3. So I think that might get us to the end of our episode then here, guys.
Am I the only one that gets to call the top 3? I thought we had to...
I only played one.
Played 3.
Oh,
Fred,
okay.
top 3, go.
Skyrim.
Elden Ring.
Elden Ring. Did I say Dead by Daylight?
You did.
Okay, good. Yeah. Mentioned Dead by Daylight. Check it out. I just unlocked. They just had added Nicolas Cage as a playable character on Dead by Daylight, and he does the voice.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. Yeah, normally we all do power rankings, but I don't think Fred and I had enough extensive experience.
We didn't have a lot of extensive experience about this, but I jumped on it because I know I said I didn't beat it, but I logged so many hours on Skyrim, and I think it was just because I was just screwing around. I wasn't really just doing the mission, and you can do that. That's what's so great about it.
Plenty of distractions in this game. It's unreal.
Yeah. I feel like I definitely want to jump into these now. They really sound like really fun games. Like just all around. I just love the ability to kind of pick and choose what you want to do a little bit, and then being able to just kind of stay on. Because I love a mainline story, and I think that's almost why like the Forgotten City almost sounds like something I just want to jump into and see how I like it. Because now knowing it's like its own game too, it really sounds like quite the adventure. So yeah, that's it. It's my top 3 of ones I want to try. I'll go Skyrim, the Forgotten City, and then Oblivion. I want to go back. I got to go back.
They were all in purgatory.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but that does bring us to the end of our episode here. Erik, thanks so much for being a guest. But before you go, anything you would like to plug?
Well, as always, I'm always plugging and singing the praises of the Interchange Theater. It's the improv theater cooperative that I am a very proud member and a board member on. We got some great shows coming up in the next couple of weeks. I know I'm doing a duo prov set with my friend Jeff Weekly Heckman coming up in the next couple. And then we're opening up for the Apocalypse show, which is going to be a really, really solid night that I'm excited for. We got a bunch of different theater producers coming in, renting us out throughout the summer, but check out interchangetheater.com for all the events that we got hosting. Every weekend we got something fun to do.
Sounds great. That's the interchangetheater.com.
Interchangetheater.com. Yeah, man. Yeah, mouthful. I could run on forever. But
it's good, I think.
Yeah, I think you would be happy to hear that generally most of our guests are performers at the theater, and I feel most episodes we're singing the praise of Interchange Theater, so all you do is very appreciated, and we always love to tell everyone to check out the Interchange Theater, because people like Erik and the rest of everyone at the co-op who make it very special. It's just a really nice place, and if you're in the Milwaukee area, or even outside, make the trek, come check it out.
Yeah, it's a great community of people. Erik is definitely heavily involved. He's keeping the ship steering straight and narrow, and it's a good place to be. Everyone should definitely check it out. Fred, anything you'd like to call out?
Not too much. I'll be showing up in some interchange shows. I know I've said on the podcast before, I just went back to full-time work after 3 years, so balancing that's been a little crazy, but this will be after this airs, but I did just officially sign up for my first show back after like 3 months. I'm going to be with Palindrome in July. I know this will already have happened, but I am just excited to say I'm back at it again. Feeling rusty, but excited.
And then I'll just plug the podcast. We appreciate you being a listener. If you'd like to rate and review us, please do so. Please give us 5 stars in your review if you really like us that much. You can always drop us a donation at buymeacoffee.com/SOTF. You can give us a one-time donation or repeat donation if you feel so inclined. And you can also find us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at State of the Franchise Podcast with Tom and Fred. And stay tuned for next time, where we'll be discussing the adaptations of William Shakespeare. Should be a great time. And thank you all for listening. And thank you so much again for being on our episode here, Erik.
Absolutely. Well met. May Talos guide you both.
Nice.
Thanks. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
And time is on the light. I got no cares, 'cause all I wanna do is charge my phone, drive, listening to you. And what they taught you about will